Today we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the power of the Codex. Very clickbaity title, but it's like completely accurate to what we're going to be covering. So, yeah, like, whereas last time we spent a long time looking at the different ways that we could edit our novel using chat, replacements, our own work, and we've started implementing those in the Write With Me sessions that are on Wednesdays at the same time. This week we are going to look at Codex entries and how we can use these in slightly less than slightly less conventional ways. So yeah, we'll deep dive into that. But first, before we do, I am going to go into a little bit of an idea we've been throwing around for some August short story fun. So like we're thinking of running saying running, hosting, I guess. Um let's say hosting a short story challenge, encouraging people instead of like with NaNoWriMo to try and get quantity and just get the words out there. We want to focus on taking a concept and making a short story out of it, like, you know, kind of 7 to 10,000 words. You have your entire story, and then you spend time working with AI to edit it and kind of like fine tune and hone it and make it into a complete story. And in doing that, it will teach you a lot about the ways that you'll use Novelcrafter on a larger scale. So it's kind of like taking a mini project to test everything out and work out what prompts work for you, what workflows. And because it's only a short project, you don't have to put in like lots of time and investment. So it's kind of like it's a nicer way of just getting together with everything. And in order to kind of make it a bit more fun community wise, we were thinking, okay, well, let's make this a bingo where everyone kind of has the same like bunch of prompts to work with, but there's like a lot, so you can kind of like pick something that fits with your style still, and just kind of give it a bit of a go. So in a moment, I will show you kind of a prototype grid that I made today. This isn't the final thing, and you know we'll probably get some community involvement, but this is kind of the idea that we have. Oh, hello everyone. Oh, everyone's here. It's great. Okay, so um not final design. This is just me messing around, but short story bingo. So we've got here different perspectives or layouts, locations, a trope, an object, and a genre. And what the idea is that you will choose either a column or a row, and use those 5 words in order to like make the story, and that'll set you off. So yeah, so either, you know, you could pick a row of 5 items or a column. And so like here, you might have a cozy mystery that's in reverse chronology set in a witch's cottage involving an odd sock and a plot twist at the end. Who knows how that's going to turn out? But like the same thing, um, here the odd sock could also involve a third person thriller set in an enchanted forest. Like some of these don't go necessarily, or like it's not what you would think of, but it's also fun then to take that, because sometimes constraint inspires creativity. So that's kind of the thought. And then here with the free space, it's a you get to pick. Um, so there's like 10 concepts overall that we can just like pick between. And like I will go live every day, kind of working on the short story from concepting to writing to editing. So you'll be able to also see the entire workflow of something that's shorter. So you get to actually see it within a month. Um, I'm kind of curious, which rows or columns are you guys liking out of this bingo? What would I do? I've not actually. I mean, I made it, but I've not like actually thought about this. Um, I mean, part of me kind of likes the idea of this cozy mystery with a Rubik's cube set on a tropical island where enemies are forced to work together. That is pretty cool. And in the columns, I mean, I I don't know if I would write this myself, like if it would be in my style, but I could totally imagine a thriller set in a mountain base camp with an unreliable narrator. Like that vibe, like it feels like something that's already out there or like should be out there. So that's kind of cool. I will leave this up for a moment while I take a drink and then we'll get started on the codex. But yeah, um, I will put actually I will put up a little image. I will stick it in the document so you can oh, Jean-Luc says the second row. Yeah, okay, so a reverse chronology steampunk that involves a whistle at a base camp and a moral dilemma. That's cool. Enchanted Forest with a Sock. Yeah, that thriller looks quite cool. Yeah, and both Rubik's Cube ones. Yeah, I mean, there's so much you could do with these. I think even just the concept of steampunk with a Rubik's Cube, like how did the Rubik's Cube get invented in a steampunk world? I would like to know that. Is it made of like runes or like gemstones instead of plastic? Because if plastic's not been widely used, but so much that you can like play around with, and I think that's just like a great thing to kind of like inspire us all. It's always gears, yeah. Maybe it's Rubik's cubes that are made out of gears. Um, but yeah, it's just like it's something that's just it's a bit of fun. We'll all take our stories, and then maybe if we want to share them, we can do. We can share, get feedback, or just like celebrate our wins. Like there's no pressure, and like afterwards you can do whatever you want with them. If you want them to gather dust for the rest of eternity and or deleted so no one ever knows about their existence, totally fine. If you want to publish it, yeah, go ahead. It's just it's a short story that we're all doing, and there's something to connect them. Okay, so intro, mental note to self, describe the codex. Okay, so we have the Codex and Novelcrafter. We've got videos on how it works as a normal function, and there's documentation. We've got some documentation on other ways to use the Codex. However, we've also recently set up. Let me access it. We have on the Discord a Codex share channel, which I will briefly show you. Here, where we have lots of different codexes that our users have very kindly shared. I didn't want to show that for too long because of reasons, but you can get that. There's a link. Someone will put a link in the chat, so that you can like find out about it. You can see other people's, share yours, and it gives you a bit of an idea of where to start. And then yeah, so then we're going to look into this is kind of codex entries that we've kind of like thought, okay, these are geared to first beat emphasis. We're taking our story, we are starting the first chapter in a scene, and first chapter in a scene. Oh my goodness, first beat in a scene. Beats in scenes in chapters. We could have one scene in a chapter, all totally fine. Yeah, so we're going to look at how we can use codex entries to help our first beat of a project. So the first way that doesn't even use AI like kind of functionality is pure Novelcrafter is word tracking. Whilst the most common way of using this kind of within the community is to track AI-isms, i.e. words that the AI uses all the time, codex entries are the perfect way to track any word in your story. So to set up your codex entry, you want to go onto your story, new entry, other, and then you will add the words that you want to track as an alias. And then what you'll do is click on the action menu, so 3 dots here, and you can pick a color. So for example, we have the AI-isms here head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I've got lots of different ones. And I mean, you can even see in here in this description, it's highlighting these weak verbs. If I go onto it, you can see eyes is mentioned because that's part of my head, shoulders, knees, and toes entry. Ears. There, we've got some red for together. And obviously, sometimes words will get used, but we're just kind of like flagging up when the AI might be doing a bit more. I will zoom in a bit more because I've just realized that there you go, just so everyone can see. Let me know if the screen's too small. I've got like a new screen, so everything's a bit more condensed for you guys. Yes. So there's the AIisms, and I've included here a list of the AIisms that the community has shared so far. Likewise on the Discord, there's a post with it there, but you can just click copy here and put them into the aliases. As I've shown, you can use these in other sections. So there's weak verbs. I have these here. They are tracked in blue, and you can see how often they're getting mentioned. But again, it's fine to have some in. It's just kind of giving an indication of where you might want to choose to use a more powerful verb. And then adjectives. So if you know that you say slowly or quietly or softly, and you say that those like specific adverbs a lot of the time, you can put those in. So it means you can kind of like look and scan through. Another beauty of this is if you go onto it, you can then look at appearances and see all the times something appears. So say if you know that, okay, I'm going to go into one of my works. I'm going to make a Codex entry for browse. So anytime like browse, furrowed, anything like that come, I can then be like, okay, because that's something again AI uses a lot. So I could be like, okay, well I need to see in this scene, there's three senses of like 3 mentions of a frown. I'm like, okay, that's happening a lot, and it's just like one word, but it's a good way using the aliases of similar kind of phrases. You can kind of track when something is occurring so that you can pick it up and be like, okay, as a human, this is what I need to do. I need to edit these things out. And you can do this for things that are AI driven or things that you put in. So yeah, Emery said, I find this helpful for when chuckle or smirk. So we could do smirk. So I have 3 mentions of this in different scenes. So I kind of like, okay, well, I've put that one out. I might have, let's say like, okay, I don't have crease. But I was thinking like eyes crinkling. Crinkle? No? Okay, so I have 2 instances, but then again, and you can use this tracker bar to see how far apart. So I know that from this, no one's going to notice that it's there. It's 2 uses of a word practically at other ends of the story. Like, it'll be fine. But if you notice that you had lots of times mentioned, then you'd be like, okay, well, in the beginning, oh, I'm using that word a lot. Let's find something else. And it's just a great way of kind of like working through things partly with editing, but also it keeps you on the ball. And because it's a word tracker, it's not costing you any tokens, but it's helping you improve your work and know when you're doing stuff that you may want to change. You might not, and that's totally fine. But it gives you that kind of like chance to do it, and to make those choices. Of course, you can also see if a word appears in a summary, a codex, a snippet, that stuff too. If you want to turn the tracking off, you can also do that through references, don't automatically track, and then it's just like if you want to like turn off the feature for a while and you just want to use it when you're in editing mode, for example. You might also want to not include it in the AI context, because you don't want every time smirk comes up, then the AI to suddenly pull up another codex entry with lots of other random words. So again, it's something that you can do and kind of keep an eye on. So I'm going to delete that. Yes. Okay. I think we've gone over that. So again, I've kind of covered this already. So tracking. So if you wanted, say if you know that your characters kiss at some point in this book, and you've got to the end and you're like, damn it, where were they when they kissed? You could read your entire thing, your entire like book, or like skim through it, or rather than Control F on the entire novel, you could make your codex entry, type in kiss or any other things, and then you can be like, okay, well I found that. Go to the chapter. Bam. So like for example, I'm like, okay, well where's Acus? Where does Acus first come in? Okay, chapter 8 is where he's first mentioned, and then I can go there. I think this was supposed to be in one of the. So yes. So that kind of gives you an idea. Where's that appearance? So yeah. It takes you there. So let's go back to Only Dogs Left. One sarcastic chick says, good use for a high fantasy or hard sci-fi novel where you want to search for anachronisms in speech, so like oh my god, or some common curse words, and you want to find something else, like yeah, you want to make it something else. So it's a good way of tracking those things and being like, okay, well, later me is going to deal with this issue. I ain't later me. It'll track. I am very much a defer to future Kate. Okay, chat is up to date. Right. So then the next bit, so yeah, I've already discussed that. Okay, subplots. We covered this a little bit in earlier sessions. However, I'm just going to go over the feature again. I think it's a really good kind of thing you can do. I've included a link. I will include a link later to the subplot lesson. Or I'll just close that for now. You can use Codex progressions to track your subplots, and then you can talk with them in chat, you can view them in the matrix, and kind of get that physical impression. So in Only Dogs Left, let me just close all of these. I have a lot of Codex entries I need to clean up. You do not need this many Codex entries when they're not actually getting used for most of it. Okay, subplots. So if we want to see the romantic subplot within our novel, I made a vague kind of description of it. I included an alias so I can easily refer to it in my in chat, because you know typing that out 20 times would suck. And then I've used progression slash add-ons to track each of these. And actually seeing this makes me realize, okay, I need to add in, because in chapter 1 they meet. So their first meeting. So I need to add that in. But you can then see the progression throughout the story kind of at a glance, rather than having to kind of flick through individual things or colors. And so if we go into the matrix view and look at subplots, we can see this, see that all these happen. You can see where all these like additions happen, and you can also track then that subplot against all your other subplots. So for example, if I do, actually let's do a custom. I'm going to add an entry, Delilah, and then I'm going to add SP1. SP1. So Delilah, because she's the point of view character for every chapter, it means I get to see the entire chapter summary. But then I also get to see now, okay, well, in these chapters, this part of the subplot happens, and you can just kind of scroll through and be like, okay, well, I'm not actually happy with, or like, oh, I think these also could be added in. And it just kind of gives you a little bit of a way that without using like without putting too much work in, you can get a good grip of your story and your subplots, and it really helps give clarity. And then you can also mention these. So you can also, I had this as an addendum for the end, but I'm going to put it in here. So, say if we wanted to get our good old friend Drunk Claude out, we could decide, okay, so we're going to give it the full novel outline and then give it scene context of the very last scene. So that is because we want all progressions to be seen. And of course, I've got nothing in this scene, so it's not going to add to my token count. So you could always have a blank scene at the end just to do this. And then I'm going to take from the very end. Oh. Copy. Paste. So I've got a variation asking it to read the outline and then the provided subplot. The subplot is SP1. Have at it. Actually, I'm going to put, do you understand hands over beer? Damn, I forgot to change. Let's try that again. Sending it to Sonnet this time. Okay, and again, realize, okay, so it's going to need the subplot. I'm sure someone's going to comment like straight away with this. So I'm going to open a new chat. Sonnet. I'm not entirely sure if this is going to how this is going to work, but that's the whole point. That's the whole fun of playing around with these things. But it's also a good way to use the codex, because I've done this with like without a drunk Claude, but drunk Claude's fun. All right, listen up, you want to be George R.R. Martin. I've read your outline in this subplot one, and boy oh boy, do we have some work to do. Let's dive into this mess, shall we? First, I gotta say, I'm digging this whole dystopian vibe you've got on. Nova Bezos, nice touch. Reminds me of that bald billionaire who's probably going to own us all someday. But let's talk about this Perrin Delilah dynamic you've got cooking. So, Perrin's got this whole tragic backstory with his dead wife, and he's out for revenge against the Archon. Cool, cool. I get behind that. But here's the thing, it feels a bit, I don't know, tacked on. Like, you suddenly remembered you needed a motivation for this guy and went, oh, dead wife, that'll do. It's not bad, but it's not exactly groundbreaking either. Now, let's talk about how this fits into your main narrative. You've got Delilah running around trying to figure out what happened to her parents, getting mixed up with rebels, and suddenly, bam, here's Perrin with his own agenda. It's like you're trying to juggle too many balls at once. Some of them are on fire, and others are made of jelly. This whole Perrin offers Delilah a task in return for paying off her sister's release bit. That's good. A solid hook. It gives Delilah a reason to trust this guy, even though everyone's telling her not to. But then you've got Nicodemus warning her off, calling her a slimy charmer. Come on, ma'am. Show, don't tell. Tell us why. Okay, so that obviously is a summary. So I need to have some scenes where he's working his magic on other people. Okay, fair point. Need to show him talking to people. One minute she's defending him, and the next she's running off to his house. That's not ping ponging. That's both. But you know, again, we take it with a pinch of salt. Let's talk about the ball scene. It's a classic move, right? Cinderella goes to the ball, finds out some juicy info, but here's the thing. It feels a bit convenient. Like, of course, Perrin just happens to have an invite to this fancy shindig where Delilah might overhear something about her parents. It's like you're trying to force the plot along instead of letting it flow naturally. And don't get me started on this whole Perrin kills Kira to save Delilah thing. That's a big fucking deal, my friend. You can't just drop that bomb and then move on. That's going to mess with Delilah up big time. I mean, her sister just got off by the guy she's been getting cozy with. That's some serious trauma right there. But you know what? Despite all this, I'm intrigued. You got some good bones here. The whole justice isn't black and white theme. That's gold. You got Delilah caught between her loyalty to Nicodemus, her sister's rebel cause, and this mysterious Perrin character. That's some juicy conflict right there. What you need to do is weave this Perrin subplot more tightly into the main narrative. Right now, it feels like it's running parallel to Delilah's story, occasionally intersecting but never fully integrating. You need to make Perrin's goals and Delilah's goals align more closely. Maybe Perrin knows something about Delilah's parents he's not telling her. Maybe his quest for revenge against the Archon is somehow tied to the disappearance of them. And for the love of all that's holy, give us more of Perrin's perspective. We're getting all this secondhand through Delilah, and it's making Perrin feel like a plot device rather than a fully fleshed out character. Let us see him struggling with his desire for revenge and his growing feelings for Delilah. Show us why he's willing to throw away his shot at the Archon to save her. Oh, and that puppy? More of that, please. That's a nice humanizing touch for both Perrin and Delilah. It's these little details that make characters feel real, you know. Oh my god, this keeps going. When I asked for 2,000 words, it was not lying. I might not read all this out. Okay, speaking of rebels, what's the deal? Perrin, Kira questioning. Okay, so it's giving some ideas. That's cool. It's calling me drunk. Okay, I mean, the fact that I asked for 2,000 words and it's given me 1,600 of decent analysis, I'm really happy with that. And so there you go. Jean-Luc, there is the cameo of the drunk Claude when we are looking at the Codex entries and subplots. You can really kind of get that like analysis going on and like kind of chat to it, get an idea of what's going on, compare it, put more of the dog in. And that will keep me laughing for a long time. Okay, subplots. Check. Okay, so the next thing is something that I totally checked that out tomorrow when making this. So these are a Corey thing. These are voice sheets. And I also use them at times as well. So I've made voice sheets for my major characters to include some sample dialogue for conversations. They're put as nested entries under the characters' names. They get called by the AI. And so we've included some kind of descriptions here. These are kind of two of Corey's examples, showing how the character talks to different people. We found a lot of good with Sonnet and Opus with this. If any of you have done anything like this with other models and know of other good models, would love to know. We can add this to the Notion document. I keep hitting the mic with my glasses. This is why I don't normally wear the glasses on the stream. So, if we go on to the main characters, Delilah, references, you can see here I have, as a nested reference, Delilah's speech pattern. So I'll click on that to go to it. So I've done just like a word description of how she talks. And then I've included a few example sentences of kind of how she talks. I have done the same for Perrin. A bit more of a detailed one. And kind of, you can see as well that he speaks a lot more because he likes to hear his voice, whereas Delilah's very blunt and to the point. And you can kind of see through these like voice sheets. It helps you kind of give your characters a unique voice so that when you read them in a scene, you can take away all of the information, like external information, all of the stage directions, and like you can just read the words and be like the speech and be like, okay, I can tell who is speaking when, especially with your major characters, like your main characters. This is like really important. You want to kind of keep this going and know what is going on. So I might have a little play around with that. I think we've got enough time. So I'm going to, within this, I'm going to make a new chapter. Let's stick it at the front so nothing earlier on impacts it. We are going to make 2 style sheets for Delilah. So this is how she talks. Can I'm gonna make a new entry. Other. She doesn't like to make eye contact, and to ask her to repeat herself. Example. True, but you can always use different speech patterns and have different so TRD says that the issue is a single pattern through this the arc hinders arc progression, and that is totally true. But you can have more than one speech pattern. Like you can always like change it up, store things in the notes, or have a different reference, and like as the story progresses, you can change these based on speech that the character said in the last chapter, things like that. Codex editions, yeah. Okay. I've done 2 very, this is very short. So we've got not Delilah's speech pattern. I'm going to put that in just so I can find it more easily. Delilah Harris speech. I'm also putting this in. So now we're going to try. So the first one, we're going to do so this first one is going to be using the Delilah's speech pattern that we already have. So let's have it right. Let's just do the general purpose. We'll have it right, like 150 words. Oh, one sec. Let me add in Claude. Oh my god, it's been a while since I've used this. Okay, let me ignore that prompt. General purpose. Clone. Edit. 200 words. Generate. Okay, so like obviously this is very cheesy AI-y. I've not put in any effort. But we're now going to see if I change Delilah. I take out the speech reference and then now add not Delilah's speech pattern. And like obviously there's a lot of conflicting evidence, so I'm curious to see how it interacts with the 2 different versions. But we'll see. Okay, so it's not changed too much, but her overall attitude, like, she's a lot, like, even though it says she's viewing him warily, like, she's not being as antagonistic, starting things straight away. She's being a bit more cautious. So there is a difference. And, like, of course, if I changed, all of this, that would then, the fact that it says fiery personality, that's going to obviously have made an influence. Um, oh, Claude might have seen the not bit. That is true. Okay, well, let's try that again. Huh. Okay, yes. Uh, there you go. That's better. Thank you, Space. So yeah, you can see here now it's actually following. It's giving her a much more guarded kind of attitude, and oh my god, super creepy. Um, but yes, you can see here now a voice sheet makes a big difference. I'm just going to delete that now. Let's add in, make sure I've put this back in. Nested references, Delilah's speech pattern. Great, done. So yeah, I mean, I would totally recommend just having a play around with these, because it can really help your character feel alive and also help you get a better picture of them. And sometimes you don't want to have everything in your codex entry for your main codex entry for the character, especially if you're going to do a lot of dialogue. You might be like, okay, I want this somewhere separate so I can kind of constantly change it without having to scroll down all the appearances and yada yada. As a reference, if we go to that and go to preview final prompt, you can see here that um, we have Perrin's speech there. We have Delilah's speech pattern. We have Delilah here, Perrin, and it kind of it pulls it in and gives you a lot of like really good things. Yeah, Spaces 1 point to Claude as it actually took note of that one little word and ignored what you wrote. Like, I think that's really important, and it shows that AI models are getting better at listening, or like comprehension, which always good to know. Let me put this. Uh, so next we have world building. So setting your scene is important. Like in the first beat of a scene, you want to give kind of information about the time, the like time of day, where you are, that kind of stuff. You might have, like, especially if you're writing sci-fi or fantasy, have these like huge world building kind of um repositories. And whilst it's tempting to just stick them as always include, you might decide that you want to reference it only in the first beat of a scene. So say I have okay, well let's get rid of all of this. We are going to include information. So yeah, so Space is saying that you could have like entries that you clip to a summary. If I go format, always forget where this is. Um, hmm. Have I clicked something to turn off my scene summaries? Weird. But in the normally when you've got your things, you can go click Codex, add. So you might want to add your locations. So say here I have Nicodemus's workshop. I could add the Codex entry to his workshop, and it would show up for the entire scene. I'm not in focus mode. Oh, I am. Huh. I thought focus mode always made it so it was full screen. That's why I was confused. Okay, that's why. Actions. Sorry, Codex, and you can add things in. So let's say we are going to add in some information about the burning library, because that is relevant. And we're going to, oh, I'm flickering a bit. And then one moment, let me see if I can sort out my webcam. Don't know what was causing that. I have everything on. Well, this is what happens when you use your phone as a webcam, I guess. Let's have also as context for the scene. Servant underclass and the undercity. Just give those little bits of context, see how things go. And we've also still got Perrin and Delilah. I'll give it a little bit more to work with, like word-wise, so 400 words, but I'll keep it kind of like, I don't want to add any more details. I want to see just how the AI kind of makes it work and uses that world building. Okay, it's brought up Burning Library. I don't know why it's thinking that Lily is her sister. Like, there is no Lily. Interesting. I'm now curious as to what was actually in those. I suppose I've got Burning Library. Let's see if I add in. I'm going to add in Perrin's dogs and see if the dogs get mentioned. Okay, see, now it's come up with a bit more of the Undercity. It's located in there. Lily again. Huh. Bringing in bits about it. Like, it's got some bits. I think, again, this is probably a matter of prompting, working out things, giving it a bit more meat. But you can see where some bits are starting to get fed in just by including them in. So say if I instead, although I'm curious, Okay. Okay, we've got enough time. I'm going to give this another go. Okay, so I'm mentioning more things for this like opening beat. Um, okay, it's mentioned as dogs, as it is in here, so it's kind of bringing things. Interesting. But again, I mean, I love seeing all this, like the different stuff. It's so much fun. Sorry, I just went quiet then as I was reading. I hope you all enjoyed that reading. I'm just gonna delete this chapter now. Or archive it because I don't need it. Delete. And finally, in the last 10 minutes, I wanted to show you a little bit for nonfiction. So the Codex can kind of help you fight against the training of a large language model. It can help build up consistency, stop hallucinations, and write in your tone. So in this example, I'm going to put some Kate-written explanations of basic chemistry terms into a document, and we want the model to take the Kate style in how I talk to my audience. I'm going to use the same prompt and the using definitions that I've filled and not. I'm going to see how it changes. Did I include? Okay, so I'm just going to, in a completely different book. No, I will do a blank book. I'll do a new book. Create novel. Absolutely no codex entries. I'm just going to include a beat of this. And this will be using pure just it's just making a blog article. So we'll apply. I will copy and place that into here. And then we're going to now do the exact same thing, but in an article or in a thing. I've put all my different codex references here. I think I've put everything. Exact same prompt. General purpose, long, sonnet. And we're just going to see how different it is. And for like reference, like I have it's very casual. I've put in information. This is all like Kate written stuff. And so it's kind of like in my tone of voice, essentially. So I'm kind of interested to see how these differ. Okay, I feel like this immediately the opening feels a lot more casual and kind of like how I speak. Um yeah, I've included bits of history and it's pulled from those details. Um I like that. This blue had a bit of an identity crisis when it came to light. To understand why, we need to delve into the microscopic world of atoms and electrons. Um, yeah, this definitely feels a lot more like how I would speak. Um, it's for me, it's more fun to read, but I think that's also like I'm biased. um, and like I've written an article on this, so all the information that I've fed in is based on an article of this topic that I've written. So it's interesting seeing the AI kind of rewriting bits, and it really does give a good example. A good. So yeah. Also, make sure that your codex entries are of the tone and designed to the people that you're wanting to get, because like especially with like Claude Sonnet 3.5 and like other kind of newer models coming out, they're really good at picking up tone. So if you accidentally kind of pitch it too high or low, like it will really follow it. But this is a great way of how like the codex, like, so in my codex I had objects, so I kind of defined what things were. I included some, like for my lore was like chemical concepts, um so like what charge is, what an inorganic compound is, toxicity, but because they were all written in my words, like the ability of a substance to cause harm when something's exposed to it, like it really helps kind of give that to the LLM. Yeah, which is a good thing. We want this. Like, um, and yeah, I think it's a really it's just really cool. And you could do this like let's try. Um okay, so using the same style, now described by alizarin crimson. Um Alizarin crimson fades, but the color doesn't return. Okay, interesting. So yeah, alizarin crimson is an organic compound. Um it comes from but why doesn't oxygen swoop in to save the day as it does with Prussian blue? This is really fascinating. It's done a really good explanation. And again, the style has stayed constant and it does kind of help you get that kind of impression. Joe, or one sarcastic chick, says also for non-fiction, style is a clever use for creating uh, apocryphal. Uh, uh, I can't pronounce that. Content for your fiction stories, news articles, professional journal entries, history books, etc. So, like, I mean, like, it makes me think of like Frankenstein or Dracula, where there's like bits of different texts in. Like, it would be really cool, like, to do that. Or if there's like, um, if you're doing like a hardcore, like a I don't know what genre is like, but fantasy where everything's like grounded in reality. You could totally have that and kind of use nonfiction writing to produce oh my god, words. You could use this to kind of give you example articles or lectures and kind of have it written in your character's voice if you wrote all the information in your character's voice. So yeah, it's a really cool way. Does anyone have any questions about any of this stuff that we've just covered? Because I think that was a bit of a whistle stop tour. Um, and yeah, or the bingo. I will leave that up there. But yeah, do any of you have any questions about any of the types of codex entries that we have looked at? Is there any that you want to look at again to get a better idea of things? Oh, yeah. So Joe said thinking like the little blurbs at the beginning of chapters that are official content. That's cool. Like, yeah, when you have like, yeah, it would be interesting to see. So yeah, like now I'm imagining something for like Only Dogs Left of like maybe there's like a history of the current world and you could have like a little bit there of the actual history. So readers, you kind of like telling readers, but also it's within the canon of the universe because it's based on like a book or something like that. It's really cool. Um, but yeah, I it doesn't seem like there are any questions. I will give it one more moment. Um, but yeah, this was really fun. So I'm going to be back on Wednesday. I will be finishing off bits of chapter two that I was working on for Only Dogs Left, and I'll probably start work on chapter three. I just want to kind of like have one last kind of push through with the edits for chapter two. Like, obviously, there'll be like whole reruns, but I just once I've finished, but just get things started. So yeah, I will see you all on Wednesday. If you have any thoughts of the short story bingo, give me a heads up on Discord. I'm always happy to know. And yeah, I'm really excited to do all this. So I will speak to you all very